If you can master the art of communication, you can master almost every area of your life. Communication is more than words. It's connection. It's influence. It's clarity. And it's a bridge between what you know and what others understand. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't express them, if you can't transfer those ideas into someone else's understanding, you'll live in frustration. You'll be the genius no one listens to, the leader no one follows, the dreamer who never makes the sale. So what's the solution? Work harder on your ability to communicate than on your ability to impress. Learn to say it simple, say it clear, say it with intention, and say it from the heart. Improving your communication is not something that happens overnight, but it does happen daily. One word at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment of silence when you used to interrupt, one question you ask instead of rushing to answer. Good communication begins with listening, and not just waiting to speak, but truly listening to understand. Listening sharpens your mind and softens your ego. It tells the other person they matter, and when people feel seen and heard, they lean in. Next, sharpen your language. Use words that build bridges, not walls. Words that lift, not confuse. Drop the jargon. Drop the filler. Add meaning. Add pause. Add presence. And remember, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Your body speaks before your mouth opens. Your tone is louder than your text. Your eyes carry your intention. Work on your storytelling. If facts tell, stories sell. A good story makes people feel, and people remember what they feel. Wrap your ideas in stories, and your message will travel. Don't forget to ask questions. Questions open doors. They reveal needs, invite clarity, and show respect. The person asking questions is in control, quietly. Also, learn when not to speak. Silence is powerful. Pause for effect. Breathe between thoughts. Give your words room to land. Some of the greatest communicators are those who speak less, but say more. If you want to move people, speak to their heart, not just their head. Logic leads, but emotion moves. Make people feel understood and they'll follow you anywhere. Last, practice every day with every person. Your coworkers, your children, your partner, even the cashier. Every interaction is a rehearsal for greatness. And when you fail, and you will, learn from it. You misspeak, you stumble, you offend, so what? Reflect, correct, improve. Growth is messy before it's elegant. You don't need to be perfect, but you must be intentional. Work at it, refine it, and use it to serve. Communication isn't just about being heard, it's about making a difference. Communication is not just what you say, it's what they hear. It's not just the words you use, it's the feeling you deliver. If there's one thing that can change your relationships, elevate your leadership, and increase your influence, it's learning how to communicate more effectively. And like any other skill, it can be learned, it can be practiced, it can be refined. You don't have to be born with a silver tongue. You just need to make the decision to grow. Let's start here. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. And that's where it all breaks down. You'll never connect with others if you're only waiting for your turn to talk. Real communication begins with listening, and not surface listening. I'm talking about deep listening, the kind where you're fully present, where your eyes are on the person, not on your phone, where you hear not just their words, but their intent, their meaning, their emotion. One of the most powerful things you can do in communication is make people feel understood. People don't need you to fix everything. They don't even need you to agree. But if you can make them feel truly heard, you'll earn their respect and often their loyalty. Now, once you've truly heard someone, then and only then should you speak. And when you do, speak with clarity. Speak with intention. Don't complicate your message trying to sound smart. Simplicity is genius. It's not about using big words. It's about choosing the right words. The ones that land, the ones that reach the heart, the ones that move people forward. And don't forget, Your body talks too. Your posture, your eyes, your facial expressions, they all speak before your mouth opens. You can say the right thing the wrong way and still lose the moment. Or you can say the simplest thing with the right presence and shift everything. People don't just listen with their ears. They read your energy. They feel your confidence or the lack of it. That's why presence matters. One of the greatest tools in communication is storytelling. You may have the best data, the most accurate facts, the most brilliant logic, but if you want people to remember what you say, you need to package your message in a story. Facts tell, stories sell. Stories make people feel, and people remember how you made them feel more than anything you said. So learn to tell a story, your story, other people's stories, simple lessons from daily life. Wrap your point in a narrative and it will travel farther and last longer. Here's another secret, the pause. Yes, the pause. That small moment of silence in the middle of your sentence. That slight delay before you answer. That breath between your thoughts. The pause is powerful. It gives weight to your words. It commands attention. It allows your listener to absorb the moment. Never underestimate the value of a well-placed pause. And while we're at it, don't confuse volume with impact. Some think if they talk louder, they'll be heard better. But often it's the quiet, composed voice that captures attention. Don't be afraid to speak calmly. Confidence doesn't need to shout. If you want to improve your communication, you've also got to improve your vocabulary. Not to sound more intellectual, but to be more precise. Each word you know is a new tool in your toolbox. And when you have the right words, you can cut through confusion, avoid misunderstanding, and build trust. Here's something else. Ask more questions. Questions are door openers. They invite people in. They show that you're interested. They uncover what's really going on. Great communicators aren't just great speakers, they're great questioners. They ask, and then they listen. And from that listening, they shape their message. Now, don't expect to master this overnight. Communication is not a light switch. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. Every conversation is an opportunity to get better. Speak with your children. Speak with your coworkers. Speak with the waiter at the cafe. Use every moment as practice. Every word, every smile, every silence. It all counts. You'll stumble. You'll say the wrong thing. You'll interrupt when you shouldn't. You'll miss the mark sometimes. That's fine. That's growth. Don't aim to be flawless. Aim to be intentional. Aim to connect. And above all, aim to serve. Because real communication isn't about getting your point across. It's about lifting others, guiding others, inspiring others. And that starts when you stop focusing on being impressive and start focusing on being understood. Master that, and you'll master more than communication. You'll master your influence. There comes a time when you realize that the goal is not to sound smart, it's to be understood. That the purpose of communication isn't to impress, but to express. That's when everything changes. We've all seen it. A person walks into the room with all the right words, all the polished phrases, all the complicated vocabulary, and yet no one connects with them. Why? Because they were more concerned with how they looked than with what they gave. They were chasing admiration, not clarity. But if your message doesn't land, what's the use of it? People don't remember how impressive your words were. They remember how clearly they understood you. They remember how you made them feel. They remember if you said something that stuck. And the truth is, what sticks is usually simple, sincere, and said from the heart. Now, don't confuse simplicity with shallowness. Speaking to express doesn't mean dumbing things down. It means digging things in. It means shaping your thoughts so that they land in someone else's mind without friction. It means making your words a bridge, not a wall. And that takes wisdom. Trying to impress is exhausting. You overthink. You rehearse every line. You chase cleverness instead of truth. But when you speak to express, you speak from a place of service. You don't talk to be admired. You talk to make a difference. You talk to connect. You see, the best communicators don't try to dominate the room, they try to reach it. They aren't trying to sound better than others, they're trying to be better for others. That's a big difference. When you speak to express, you're focused outward. When you speak to impress, you're focused inward. One builds connection, the other builds ego. When I started learning how to communicate, I made this mistake. I thought if I used big, complicated words, I'd sound more intelligent. But what I noticed was that people were nodding politely, but they weren't responding. I was talking at them, not with them. I had to learn that the real power of speech is in connection, not in applause. If your goal is to leave people in awe, you may win the room, but you'll lose the heart. But if your goal is to leave them better than you found them, now you're doing something that matters. Now you're shaping lives, not just gathering compliments. You want your communication to have traction, to move someone, to cause a shift in thinking or behavior. That doesn't happen through impressiveness. That happens through clarity, sincerity, and focus. And it only happens when your ego gets out of the way. People are hungry for something real, something honest, something human. Speak from that place. Don't be afraid to be plain. Don't be afraid to be direct. Don't be afraid to be simple. Simple is not lesser. In fact, the most powerful truths are the simplest ones. Be kind. Show up. Do your best. Keep your word. You don't need to be flashy to be effective. Just be real. Be intentional. Speak from experience, not theory. Speak from the heart, not the script. Because when someone hears something real, it stirs something in them. It sticks. It grows roots. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop trying to impress, you become more impressive. Not because you're dazzling, but because you're authentic. Not because your words are perfect, but because they matter. People sense that. They lean in when they feel that. They trust that. So the next time you open your mouth to speak, check your motive. Are you trying to look good or are you trying to do good? One makes you a performer, the other makes you a communicator. Choose wisely. Speak not to gain attention, but to give understanding. Speak not to impress, but always, always to express, because that's where the power is. And that's what people remember. There's a reason you were given 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Nature was trying to send a message. You're supposed to listen more than you talk. It's not just poetic, it's practical. In life, business, relationships, growth, listening will take you further than speaking ever will. Most people think communication is about talking, about persuading, about saying the right thing. But the truth is, great communication starts with listening, real listening, not the kind where you nod while mentally preparing your next sentence. I mean the kind where you're fully present, where the goal isn't to respond, it's to understand. It's a discipline, a skill, a choice. And in today's noisy world, it's rare. You see, when you speak, you're only repeating what you already know. But when you listen, you open yourself up to learn something new. Listening is how you grow. Listening is how you connect. Listening is how you make people feel valued. You want influence? Learn to listen. You want trust? Learn to listen. You want to lead? Then really listen. Because people don't follow noise, they follow understanding. And you can't understand someone if you never stop long enough to hear them. Now, this doesn't mean you sit silently, waiting for your turn. That's just quiet interruption. True listening is active. It's engaged. It says with your eyes, with your posture, with your silence, I'm with you. That's powerful. In a world full of people shouting their opinions, be the one who leans in and listens. Listening takes humility. It takes the ability to set aside your own thoughts, your own ego, your own need to be heard, and make room for someone else. It's not always easy, especially when you think you already know the answer. But if you can discipline yourself to listen fully, you'll hear things others miss. You'll pick up the subtle meaning, the emotion behind the words, the unspoken concerns. And often, that's where the real message lives. Not in what's said, but in what's meant. Now, here's the secret. When you listen well, people start opening up. They start telling you what they're really thinking, what they really need. And once you know that, you can respond with wisdom, not just words. Your reply becomes targeted, helpful, meaningful, because it came from understanding, not assumption. There's a temptation, especially for smart people, to want to jump in, to fix, to advise, to teach. But wisdom knows when to speak and when to stay quiet. And more often than not, staying quiet a little longer will do more good than rushing in with a quick answer. Listening isn't passive. It's powerful. It's an act of leadership. It's an act of respect. It's an act of service. Think about the people you respect most, the mentors, the leaders, the friends who made a difference in your life. I'll bet they didn't just talk a lot. I'll bet they listened. They heard you. They made space for you to think out loud, to process, to feel safe. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most impactful. Sometimes the quietest person, the one who observes, reflects, and speaks only after listening, is the one everyone turns to when it really matters. And let's be honest, most people aren't listening. They're waiting for the chance to talk, waiting for the pause so they can jump in. But if you can be the rare one who actually listens, you'll stand out. You'll build better relationships. You'll make better decisions. And you'll grow faster. Listening makes you a better spouse, a better parent, a better business person, a better friend. It builds patience, it builds empathy, it builds wisdom. And here's something else. When you truly listen to others, they'll eventually listen to you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. So the next time you're in a conversation, remember, you already know what you're going to say, but you don't know what they're going to say. So pause, be curious, be present. Don't rush to be heard. Earn the right to speak by listening first. And when you do speak, your words will be richer, sharper, more effective, because they'll be rooted in understanding, not assumption. Talk less, listen more. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. And in that silence, you'll often hear exactly what you need to grow. If your message needs a map, you've already lost your audience. You can have the greatest idea in the world, but if people don't get it, it goes nowhere. And too often, people confuse complexity with intelligence. But the real genius, that's found in simplicity. The best communicators make the complicated clear, the heavy light, the tangled untangled. They don't talk in circles, they draw straight lines. Because they understand this truth. Communication isn't about showing off what you know. It's about making what you know useful to someone else. And that only happens when you simplify. Some people speak like they're auditioning for a dictionary. Big words, fancy phrases, endless explanations. But here's the problem. If people can't follow you, they won't follow you. You're not teaching them, you're confusing them. And confusion doesn't inspire action, it causes hesitation. You don't need more words, you need better ones. The goal isn't to sound smarter, it's to make the listener smarter, to turn insight into understanding, to take something they've never grasped and help them hold it in their hand. You know you're getting better when you can take what once took 10 minutes and say it in one. Not by cutting the value, but by cutting the fluff. Words are like weights. If there are too many, they slow the message down. So trim the fat. Get to the point. Let your idea breathe. You ever hear someone speak and think, I know they said a lot, but I don't remember a thing? That's the cost of overcomplication. But when someone speaks simply, directly, clearly, you walk away with something in your pocket, a phrase, a picture, a lesson, something you can use. That's the test. Can it be used? Can it be remembered? Can it be repeated? If not, it wasn't simple enough. You see, simple isn't shallow. Simple is sharp. Simple cuts through noise. Simple lands. It makes your message stick in people's minds and hearts. It lets the truth shine without dressing it up in layers of decoration. Think about the most powerful ideas. Discipline equals freedom. Actions speak louder than words. What you tolerate, you accept. They're short, strong, straight. You don't have to decode them. They hit you the moment you hear them. That's the power of a simplified message. Now, simplifying your message doesn't mean stripping it of depth. It means removing distractions. You can still be rich in meaning. You can still have layers, but each layer should be clear. Each point should build, not blur. Each sentence should guide, not confuse. The challenge is, we like to sound smart. We want to impress. So we pile on, but that's ego. And ego gets in the way of impact. If your audience doesn't understand you, it doesn't matter how clever you were. You didn't connect. You didn't serve. Start by knowing what you want to say. If it's not clear in your mind, it won't be clear in your words. Then ask yourself, how can I say this simpler? How can I say this cleaner? Could I say it in fewer words, in a better word?